financial literacy, and the human condition. Welcome to Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor, Dr. Francis Rayam.
Hi, it's Francis. I just wanted to take a minute to thank you for watching this video. If you're catching us on YouTube, please help us help others by clicking like, subscribe, and all notifications so you don't miss any videos. And check back for the next video. I think you're going to love it. Thanks again. For more information, you can visit us at hugyourmoney.com. Hello, everybody. I'm Francis Rayam, the Money Doctor with Hug Your Money. And today I'm here with a public adjuster named Rick Carter, also the author of How to Settle Your Claim. So I met Rick through an odd set of circumstances, and I felt like the topic of hiring a public adjuster was so valuable to me personally that I wanted other people to know about it. And it seems that when I speak to people, they've never heard of this. So welcome, Rick. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Francis. I'm really looking forward to our chat together.
Good. Let's take a little walk down memory lane for just a second and tell people how we met. I live in Massachusetts, but I have a property in North Carolina right at the beach where hurricane loves to go. And sure enough, my little beach house was pummeled by not one, but two hurricanes and was badly damaged. Being a good advocate and fighting battles as I do for people, I thought I had no problem. I filed an insurance claim. I knew that I had two policies on the property. One was a flood policy and one was a wind and rain policy. And I began the process of documenting my damage and asking for funds to be delivered so that I could repair the house. And of course, I tried to mitigate damage right away. The flood company was fabulous. They sent an adjuster out. He was quick, he was polite, he was thorough, and they paid me almost instantaneously. I mean, they were amazing. However, for the next however long it was, many, many months, I spent time arguing with the wind and rain company. And they told me ridiculous things. I'm sure you remember, Rick, like half the siding was gone off the building.
I do.
Plus all the other damage. And they told me that I had a $1,200 claim and they weren't going to pay. I mean, it was absurd. So
Right.
I called a friend of mine who is the kind of guy who knows all this stuff. And I said, you know, I've got this problem. Do you know anything about it? And he said, oh yeah, you need a public adjuster. So I went online because I needed one in North Carolina. I contacted 3 reputable adjusters and 2 didn't bother to call me back. So when I spoke with you, I was really impressed by your knowledge and the fact that you were willing to meet me at the house. It was 800 miles away from me. I was going to fly down there or drive down and meet you there. And you and your lovely wife, Julie, came and met us at the house. And the rest is sort of history. But I would like you to tell people what you remember about our meeting and the situation about my own property.
Well, I remember very clearly. Of course, the storm you're referring to was Hurricane Florence that impacted the state of North Carolina pretty severely. Came ashore about 30 miles south of where your home is. And your home, of course, is directly on the beach. You have sand dunes underneath. You go down your front steps and you're walking to the ocean. It was hammered as well as many other homes there, losing sections of roof, losing siding, water coming in. But I remember very well getting to chat a little bit with you at that time. And you had your paperwork. Actually, I think you provided me your paperwork up to that point, which is normally one of the things I ask for to kind of do a little desk review.
When I called you, you said, send me your deck sheet, your policy, which I did, and
Right.
whatever the adjuster had done. And the adjuster had never even gone inside the property. It's on lockbox and they never even entered the property.
We opened the door and I walked in and I said, Dr. Rayam, there is a lot of money on the table here that you are owed. And I said, let me explain it to you. So I walked around and just pointed out a few things. And you said, Rick, where do we sign? So that's kind of how it all started. And yeah, but I remember it clearly. And I said to Julie, it was funny that day, as we were driving home, I said, maybe I'll get to be on her show one day. And that was almost 2 years ago. So I'm excited to be here with you. Of course, I've continued to do hurricane losses and did over 40 properties along the coast and some large condominiums. And I just finished a 37 unit condominium complex. So, but I love helping people. and I loved helping you, and it's the same story over and over. So anything that I could share with you, with your clients and your people, I want to help. The main thing is sharing information with your clients. I want to help answer questions and concerns that your clients have, and how they can maximize the current investment that they have in their home, whether it's a home or rental property or
Well,
vacation house. You know, we don't want them getting ripped off. I care about people, and I care about their safety, and I want people to feel valued and maintain the value of what they have in their lives. As we've shared privately, you know, it's for me, it's all about people being safe and being secure, and security, of course, has to do with their own and our own personhood and not being stressed out and everything, but also being secure financially. And when you invest in a home, in your case, it was a beach property, it was a second home. You know, you want a place to relax and not a place that becomes a nightmare.
I remember also that you were kind enough to give me a copy of your book, which I read on the plane ride home. Very easy read, but very informative. Oh, can we get a picture of the book?
Yes.
How to how to settle your claim and get the money you deserve. At least get the money you're supposed to get, right? We're going to talk
Yeah.
about what an insurance adjuster's job is and how yours is different in a second. But I just wanted to say that I remembered reading that book and turning the pages and thinking, okay, I know this, I know this. Hey, wait, I didn't know that. And all the stuff I didn't know seemed to be the most important thing. Now, you know, I'm in the business of knowing how to help people with all kinds of monetary issues. And
Absolutely.
I've made my living out of it for 30, 30 years, something years. And so um, when something is that striking to me that I couldn't solve it because I can solve, I don't mean to sound cocky, but almost any money problem. And
Yeah.
there I was learning about that the hard way. And just recently, in fact, yesterday, I had an issue with the property. I got a panic-stricken phone call from the contractors repairing it, and it turned out that the building inspector was planning on condemning my property. Not that anyone had told me, but the septic system was disconnected from the house, and we sent somebody out to repair it. And when the plumber got there, they said, "Oh, I can't repair this. This is scheduled for demolition." And on the spot, I had to write a check for almost $15,000. And I was remembering somebody famous used to tell this story about there was good news and bad news. The bad news was they had to write Oprah Winfrey a check for $16 million. The good news
Wow.
was it cleared. And I thought of that when I thought of this claim because I thought, oh, I didn't want to write a check for $15,000 to connect to the sewer system, but I could because Rick Carter did this claim for me. And I swear to you, that is exactly the truth. If it were
That's
not for you, I would
yeah.
not have made that decision so quickly. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have, oh, I have this money over here, I'll just connect to the sewer. And, you know, we're thinking about making all kinds of upgrades to the property, all because we have this money to do it with.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have been squeaking by on what the flood company paid me.
Yeah. You know, sometimes insurance companies just want to deal with receipts. Send me the receipt. You wouldn't have had a receipt, and by this time, you wouldn't be able to turn in a receipt. But because I worked on an estimating basis and was able to settle the claim without you having to have incurred the expense yet, you had money, discretionary money. So you were in a very good position.
Yeah, so tell me about that because that is extremely important. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. I would have had to give them receipts, and how would most people ever put forth that kind of money to repair the property and then get reimbursed?
Yeah. You know, it's really all about the investigation. And I know that you're very savvy financially from my conversations with you and having read your book. And the thing is, as a public adjuster, we have a particular skill set. You know, we understand the process of building a home and everything that goes into it, as far as all the different elements. Very few property owners, unless they happen to be a general contractor, understand everything that's involved in their house. I would be at a loss if I pop the hood of my car. I know how to check the transmission fluid and jump the battery and check the brake fluid, but that's about it. You know, and nobody knows everything. But a good public adjuster, or sometimes called PA, understands construction knowledge, but we also understand the policies and what is going to be, what should be paid for, what they won't pay for. So we work to maximize your claim. So in your case, I walked in, I had with your insurance adjuster had sent you, in which they had paid you that $1,100 or $1,200. I don't recall exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm walking through, and I'm looking at it. Here's their list. I'm looking at this. Oh, they missed that. They missed this. They missed that. They missed this. They missed. So I knew what to look for, and that's how I was able to determine that there were a lot of things that they missed. The next thing I had to do was go back at another time and do my full investigation, and then I had to talk in the language that the insurance company likes to see, and that they want every item has to be calculated out: the cost of labor, the cost of materials. Most contractors never do that. They'll give you a 1 or 2 page estimate. The insurance company says, forget it, we're not paying that. And the homeowner's left holding the bag.
If I'm a person who's got a claim on my house and
Yeah.
I'm going to call the insurance company, they're going to send me an adjuster. What do I need you
Right.
for? Can you tell me the difference between
Absolutely.
an adjuster that works for the insurance company and how that
Yeah.
works and
Yeah.
hiring?
Yeah. Well, we have to never forget that when you file a loss, it is a loss to your property, but it's also going to be a loss to the insurance company.
Right.
And nobody likes to pay losses. But you pay a premium so that you have insurance to protect you in the case of a loss. And hurricanes or big regional events like the wildfires, say in California, or a hurricane or an earthquake, it hits an area, you might have 100,000 homes in an area affected. The normal claims adjuster for an insurance company may have, depending on their caseload and their expertise and their rank, so to speak, in the company, might have 3, 5, 10 claims maybe in a week to do. But suddenly they have 50 claims in a week that they were supposed to have done last week, and they got 50 next week, and the property owners are screaming at the insurance company. The insurance company is screaming at them, get it done, get it done, get it done. So what happens often, and I can't say that this is always, but in your case, I'm sure what happened is they arrive, oh, the house is locked. I'm going to walk around, take some pictures, turn in my report, I'll collect my fee, I'm on to the next one. And you were the one that suffered, and you were the one who were underpaid because the time demands were too great upon these adjusters. And in some cases, they're able to get in the house, or in the property and do a fairly decent thing where at least they sketch out the rooms and identify some damages. But nevertheless, they have 5 appointments that day, and they only have so much time. As
Sure.
a public adjuster, I don't take every claim on. I only take on the ones that I feel have been underpaid. And I might spend, I know in the case of your home, I spent approximately 12 hours in your home on 2 different occasions. Not to mention all the time I spent at my desk, not to mention the time I spent corresponding with insurance adjusters and negotiating the settlement of your claim. So because I had the time to spend, I could be very detailed and present documentation that would literally be overwhelming to the insurance company. They can't deny it. I would take moisture readings. Most adjusters fail to do that. They just look around, and if they miss things, it's never reported.
Can I let a trade secret out of the bag here and tell people one of the things that I was the most impressed about? And also, I should say that I did hold for many years a general contractor's license, believe it or not. So
Oh, wow.
I thought I shared that with you when I was there, but I have, enough knowledge to know, wow, I have real damage here. This is what it's going to cost me to repair. And that comes
Right.
in use now when a client has a problem or they're saying, I want to replace my windows or I need to put a new roof on my house. I know
Sure.
roughly what that's going to cost, and then I can tell them to go get some quotes. So in this case, I knew that I would have damage, and I knew that they hadn't been inside, but I didn't know to what extent the damage was because I hadn't been inside yet. And so
Yeah.
you went in, you not only did what I think a company adjuster would have done, which is to look at all the walls and the ceilings and the floors and decide what got wet and what didn't, but you
Right.
called me and you said, if you're willing to pay this money, which wasn't all that much, but if you're willing to pay this money, we could bring this third party in to do moisture readings in the walls. And I was like, really? You're going to do moisture readings in my walls and then what with them? And that
Yeah.
one thing to me was totally worth just hiring you just for that one piece of information, because
Right.
what happened there and what would happen to a lot of people is there was moisture in my walls and no insurance company was looking at it. And so
Right.
even if they had said, oh, we'll pay you to paint and put new carpets and things, if I had mold or my insulation was no good or my windows were leaking into the walls, we never would have known without that one test. So
Yeah.
even with that one piece of information, and believe me, there were lots of things you taught me that I had
Yeah.
never heard of.
Yeah.
That really made a convert. I mean, I don't have any reason to be doing this kind of an interview with you, except
Right.
that it made a difference in my life. And there are
Yeah.
not very many times that I meet a professional that I am that impressed with. And so let me ask you this, Rick. You know, we always tell people, oh, you're supposed to read your policy. I can promise you, if we spent the next 20 minutes convincing somebody that they have to read their policy, they would still not read their policy.
Right.
No one wants to read their policy. So, and even if they read it, will they understand it? And I
Right.
think what happens is that we just trust our insurance agent to sell
Right.
us the policy, and they, you know, we hope they've done the right thing.
Right.
Tell me if I don't understand my policy. Like, when might there be times when I should have had different coverage, or maybe there was part of the policy that I had I didn't even know to file a claim under? Can you elaborate on that sort of?
Sure. Well, your policy has several components, and you were very fortunate and smart, I would add, Francis, because you had both flood and wind storm insurance. Your property is located along the coast. Okay, and if you live in a coastal property, and maybe some of your listeners, viewers do, they're typically required to have additional coverage beyond your normal homeowner's policy. You have to
Right.
have windstorm policy because of hurricanes. A windstorm policy kicks into place when a storm is named a hurricane. If you just had a tropical storm, you had a big thunderstorm, rainstorm, you're not going to get any payment out of that windstorm coverage. But if you have a hurricane, then you get payment out of that. So that's one thing. You need to make sure that you're properly insured for where you live. Regarding to flood, because you were right on the ocean, and if you had a storm surge, high tide in combination, Hurricane Florence had 140-mile-per-hour winds, high tide, you probably had close to 3 feet of water flowing under your house. Your house, fortunately, was on piers. If it had been on the ground, it would have been flooded. Okay, because I had other properties that had 3 feet of water on their first floor. But nevertheless, you had that. So your flood insurance covered you. So you have to be properly insured, even if you don't have a beach property. If you're in a view of a river or a lake, or maybe downstream from a dam, it's well worth to have the money for flood insurance. I don't know, Francis, do you recall what your premium was for your flood insurance?
No, but I will say that I'm very fortunate because I'm in a federal floodplain.
Yeah,
And so my insurance is less expensive than someone who might not be in a federal floodplain.
right.
Uh,
And so not all agents sell flood insurance. It's managed by FEMA.
yeah.
And but flood insurance is designed for different floodplains. So depending upon the level of risk where you live, that'll help determine the amount of premium. So you may have a very low premium, you may have a very high premium if you're sitting on the beach. The money that you received was well worth it for
Absolutely.
you to have that insurance. There's sections of your policy, and one of the sections is called your declarations page. And in that, it'll talk about the property. It'll give the property address, the type of property. Does it have a shingle roof? Does it have a metal roof? Is it brick construction? Is it wood construction? It'll describe the property. And then and then it'll talk about the perils which are involved. Will it cover lightning? Will it cover a sewage backup? Uh, will it cover a flood? Will it cover a windstorm? Will it cover vandalism or theft? And it describes your perils. Then you're also going to have your premium is going to be in there. That's another one of those P's. How much is it going to cost me? And then it's going to have the person who's insured, which would be whoever the owner is. So if you might have viewers that are tenants, and you might be living in a house that gets flooded, and you possibly may not have any coverage because you don't have tenant insurance. So that's very important too, that people often forget. If you're a renter, or maybe you're an empty nester, you used to have a home and now you're in a condo or something, you need a policy to make sure that covers you in case the HOA, your homeowner association, is undercovered. And the HOA is also not going to cover your personal property, like all your furnishings, your bedding, and all those things. So very important to be properly covered, and you need to talk to your agent about that.
That's interesting because about a week ago, I did the show Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor that we do every Saturday morning about a situation that happened here in town. I ran into a small family, and they had just been burned out of their house the night before, and they were
Wow.
renters. Oh, it's so sad. They were renters, and they were in a side by side unit, and they actually saved the lives, I believe, of the people in the next unit where the fire really started. But they were sitting in a parking lot with their cat in a cage and the dog in the back of the car. Their son had come into a store to see if they could buy shoes. They didn't have their false teeth, Rick. I mean, it was so sad. They got out with their lives, and that was it. And so I went to talk to them and offer them some advice, actually. And I recommended that they speak to the homeowner and that they give them this piece of information, that they may be interested in hiring a public adjuster, so they get a fair shake, and that they might also have some coverage under the homeowner's policy, because they did not have renter's insurance.
Yeah, that's I'm really glad you brought that up, and if I could comment on it from a few perspectives.
Sure.
One of the things that's I mentioned different parts of the declaration page. Most homeowner policies or windstorm or flood, they're going to have different categories. So you're going to have coverage for the structure. That's going to be the building that you live in. Then you should have coverage for your PP, which stands for personal property, your dining room furniture, your bedroom furniture, your computers, your cameras, artwork, whatever you have in the house, it'll be listed. Some things if you have some expensive things, you'll want to get endorsements for those, if you got expensive artwork or guns or something. But they also have, in most policies, called loss of use. And loss of use means if you can't live there, you're unable to use it, it's not inhabitable, then it'll pay for you to rent another place. Right. And unfortunately, I've seen people, five-member families, stuck in an apartment because they weren't informed by their adjuster that you have a right to be in a house suitable or comparable to what you had. So if they had 4 bedrooms, they should have a 4-bedroom house. There's a lot of stuff that gets overlooked, sometimes just by ignorance of the person that's there. Sometimes they're just not informed. And then also, if you have a rental property, you may have business loss interruption because now you've lost your income because you can't have renters in there anymore. Renters should always have some insurance, and your premium is not much. You could probably get $50,000 insurance for maybe $10 to $15 a month.
I was saying like $200 a year. You can cover all your stuff.
It's an insignificant amount, but you could replace all your stuff, and you could get if you had with that, you could get all new stuff. Yeah. And so it's so simple to have that. So always have renter's insurance. If you're a renter, because hey, one day you're probably saving your dollars to buy a house one day. Well, if something happened to the one that you're in, at least you could collect that payment and have all new stuff. Might even help you get in your own house.
Thank you. I think that the homeowner actually had some relocation coverage for the renters. So at least they were not homeless, because when I saw them, they were literally hours out from this fire. And it was really creepy because I had just seen a fireman coming in and out of a Cumberland Farms here. And he looked tired and like he'd been working, and I wondered what had happened. And I went to a store up the street and ran into this family. And this is heartbreaking, but it's also it really speaks to how great people can be. They just lost everything they owned. They're homeless. They're in a parking lot. And because I went to talk to them, I donate a little to the cause, and I tried to give them this information, which I thought would be really useful. She followed me back to my car, and she kept thanking me for talking to her. God bless you for talking to me, she said. And I thought, for talking to her, I mean, my gosh, I couldn't imagine what that felt like.
And fires is the worst. And I've had a number of fire claims that I've worked. Fortunately, the claims that I've worked, no one died or no one became seriously ill. There were a few that were hospitalized for a day or two. But out of all the losses, I think a fire is the worst, because not only is the home destroyed, but the people are in shock. Any type of loss, if your house is flooded out, you're in a hotel and you come back and you got 6 inches of mud in your house, or a hurricane and your roof has been ripped off, the drywall's hanging on the walls, or your home has been burned, you're in shock. Well, there's no doubt about it. And when you're in shock, you're not in a place to make good decisions. You're an anomaly. Most people are not general contract. But even in your case, Francis, although you could ballpark the things, to be able to go on the software and list every item and to take the time and do all the things that I did, homeowners are just not equipped to do it.
I certainly couldn't do it from 800 miles away, nor did I want to. So
Right.
this is a time for me to say, because I know you're pretty modest about it, but part of what made it worth hiring you is that I didn't have to pay out any money up front. You took a piece of whatever you got for a claim. And I tell people this all the time. There cannot be a better incentive for somebody to work on their behalf to get the largest claim they can get than that they get a percentage of it. The harder
Sure.
you work, the larger the claim, the more money you make, the more money I got from the claim. But again, I just don't think people hear about it. They say
Yeah.
things to me like, but I have an adjuster coming. They're sending one out on Tuesday. Oh,
Yeah.
which leads me to ask if you would come back another time and do a segment with us about these sort of specific things that people need to know
Sure.
about the insurance. Is this is fun little chit chat and getting people to know you and to understand why I would support the idea of hiring a public adjuster wholeheartedly.
Right. Right.
In fact, we have another story coming of one of my clients now who you've been kind enough to help out so that she can get a fair shake with a public adjuster she's hiring here. We're talking about, hurricanes and fires and whatnot. She just had a tree fall on her house. I
I
mean,
saw the pictures.
she had a tree fall through her house. Big tree, right,
Yeah.
crashed through her house. Now, she also is a very smart woman. She's an engineer, and she also knows a lot about building. I told her about a public adjuster, and she said, well, they're going to send me an adjuster. I don't need one. And I said, but wait a minute. Let me tell you these stories about the
Yeah.
kinds of things a good public adjuster, might
Right.
find. And so you've been kind enough to help her get some direction, and she's right in the thick of it right now. But
Yeah.
she has agreed to talk with us. I hope we'll get a segment in there later to see
Yeah.
how she's doing. But I wanted to thank you personally for, you took time to help her at no charge and
Oh, you're welcome.
gave her to
You know,
me. I appreciate that.
I do want to say that, in over 40 states, I think it's close over 45 states, the departments of insurance realize that the insurance adjusters work for the insurance companies. And because of that, they created a special license called a public adjuster. A public adjuster cannot work for insurance companies. I'm forbidden by law to work for an insurance company. I only represent the policyholder. So I'm there in the policyholder's interest. And believe me, there wouldn't be a place for public adjusters if there wasn't a need. There's very few of us, but I love what I do because I help people. And the proof is in the pudding, as they say.
Well, I know from talking with you that you're also always keeping up on knowledge. You're always taking another course or getting another license or learning about something else. And so, that just really speaks to me. I'm sort of an education junkie. So
Yeah.
I would like to dig in deeper with you about the kinds of things that somebody would need to know. Like I'm thinking of filing a claim. How do I prepare for that? Where do I
Right.
go? What should I expect when an adjuster comes to my house? You have this book with all kinds of information in it. I'd like to pick out just a few quick chapters and get your slant on those things, if you would. And I'd like to maybe go over your website and show people what kind of resources are available to them,
Sure.
even on the web. You're willing to come back and talk to me?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, great.
Let's do it.
So we can reach you at myinsuranceadjuster.com.
That's right.
Excellent. Rick Carter, author of How to Settle Your Claim, thank you for joining us today. And I hope you will come back and give us more information in the future.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor to be interviewed by you and to share with your viewers.